Hey guys, what's up? This is Mando-Bricks, and this is my creation of the Spartans from Halo. Now, I'll just, for this, go into the basic techniques of how I built them, and then some of the predecessors and scales and stuff like that, along with some different comparisons with other builds and original concepts. So when I first tried to build a Spartan, I did it with bricks, just regular brick-built figs, because I needed it to be taller, obviously, because Spartans are 7 feet tall approximately, while regular humans are an average of 6 feet tall. So originally, I ended up with a much too large version that looks a bit like this. And as you can see, he completely towers over the other Spartans that I have. But yeah, didn't turn out too well, as you can see. So I built him with a few different types of weapons and things, but in the end I ditched that completely just because it didn't really work. So in the end, what I settled with is building a minifig based Spartan. And these are fairly basic in the approach to building them. Basically, if we're using the regular Lego stud per foot system, you can easily size up a minifigure, just any old average minifigure, with something like this, and just find the approximate height. Usually Lego minifigures are a bit less than 5 feet in that scale, but I mean a bit less than 6 feet, a bit more than 5 feet. But the Spartans actually that I turned out to almost an exact 7 feet tall, which I was really happy with when it ended up, because this is, I guess, my first completely accurate Halo, character build. So with these, as I said, I based them off of a regular minifigure body, torso, and head. So as you can see, most of the height comes from the feet, and down there you see two, what are they called? Headlight bricks? Yeah. So I used two headlight bricks there, one on each of the feet, to give it that extra stud of height. Though actually that's a little bit less than a full stud of height. But that's kind of where that started off. And then from there, I added one of these pieces, which is something from I think it was Hero Factory level 6, which is where they had smaller ones that are about minifigure scale. Now, while these are not completely going to be the same as a Halo Spartan armor, or Mjolnir armor, I should say, they do add a little bit more height that you need, and they also just beef it up and make it look much bigger and more muscular and such as they are than regular people. Now, for the helmets, I kind of use a mix of things. It was kind of a mix of that typical Lego motorcycle helmet that you see on this one, or the more spaceman-esque helmet like this one here. Now, as far as the visors, that is where it gets really hard. So, I use spaceman visors because, okay, they're not easily accessible, but from way back when, I had a few that were lying around that are gold tinted. Now, the issue with those is that they do get rubbed out, and that's obviously an issue. This one got so rubbed out that I ended up just putting that skull on it just as my excuse for a Halo helmet to kind of mimic Emil in his helmet, which did actually inspire other Spartan teams to have skull markings on their helmets. But yeah, the helmets are kind of that mix of things. Though, of course, you can't just use a regular. Well, I guess the other idea that I came up with, and you can see this on the thing that I showed you a bit ago, and how that helmet looks. I'll just take off its head. But you can basically use any of those helmets and then not take a visor, but instead there are some minifigure heads that you can get that are gold. Now this one comes from the new 20th anniversary Harry Potter sets that recently came out. And you can basically just turn around to the back of the head and you'll have a gold tint there, of course. Now you can do similar things with other pigments like blue and such, but the other one that I really like is using silver heads that are from the Lego Movie. So, you can use any range of different types of tints for your helmets, and I'm sure that there are other colored headpieces and things that I'm not thinking about that you could definitely use as a visor for your Spartans to try to give it more variety and color if you don't have those golden visors, because there are ones like Locke that we see with, blue tinted visors or orange tinted visors as opposed to gold or silver. Well, the ODSTs have a silver type color, so for those you can use that head that I showed you a minute ago. So that's what I did as far as the base minifigure. Now, obviously, the weapons are going to be up to you. There are so many good weapons and different types of Lego guns that you can use besides just brick arms, which is what I have here. While I do primarily like using brick arms on my Spartans, like this one here, some people, and this includes me in some realms, most realms actually, any product that obviously copied Lego, I kind of have an issue with. But if you are a purist, then you can use other things. One of my favorite guns to use is this one here. This is one of those ones that was featured a lot in the Lego Movie, and then it also had lots of appearances in Jurassic World and stuff. But the really nice thing that I like about this is it's very customizable. So you can add all sorts of different things to it to make much larger and more elaborate weapons for your Spartans. Another one that I find really helpful for Zanghili and other species is these Star-Lord pistols. So those can be used for a plasma pistol type design or something like that. And that's what I did with some of my Zanghili. So I only have 2 Zanghili, and they're not particularly accurate because of the scaling of them compared to the scale that I showed you earlier. But here's one of mine. But if you scale it up, it's about 10 feet tall, which I don't like. So I'm going to try to re-engineer those later. But the success that I did have, and I know this is not a video on brutes, but if you want to make a brute and you have one of these big figs are very useful, and they are actually about 9 feet tall, which is what they're supposed to be. And they do work very well with the rest of your Halo collection. And then here's a power hammer that I built. I could do a separate mock video on that, but that might take a while to do. So the figure I just showed is from Sanctum Sanctorum, but that was a big set that I don't think a lot of people have, and I don't have a lot of big sets like that. That's one of the very few that I have, and that's kind of harder to get, but works very well for the purpose as far as appearance goes. So without further ado, there's just a human again, comes about to shoulder height where they are in the show, and I mean not the show, but the game and all that. So very well scaled. And then as far as just base torsos and legs, my favorite use is Iron Man pieces. Now there are some, usually, they are the typical Iron Man colors, but there are some that are, blue and green like I have here. This is the aquatic Iron Man suit, and then the other one, they call it Taser, but it's not. It's based off of one of the ones from Iron Man 3. But those are very useful in Spartans, I think, because they look nice and high-tech, and, they just work well. So, yeah, that's just about all I have for my Spartans. If you were making a Halo mock, I hope that this was really helpful. It took a lot of experimentation to eventually get to this phase, as you can probably tell. But, yeah, I hope that this was very helpful. Please do subscribe, put a comment maybe for ideas that you have or recommendations. And, yeah. Have a great day. Subscribe, put a like, comment, and keep on building.